Juan Matias Aramburu. I actually, there's a lot of people that know they want to become a veterinarian from the get-go, and I kind of didn't know what I wanted to be. So it took me a while, but in college, I took a lot of different classes, and they force you to, they kind of tell you what you have to take, but I found that I enjoyed classes that had to do with animals, biology, zoology. I enjoyed those classes a lot, and had to work at it, but I made, much better grades in those classes than I did in others. So then I decided to pursue, veterinary medicine based on that, basically. But yeah, my college major was zoology. So I went to the Ohio State University in Columbus, Ohio, and graduated there with a bachelor's in zoology. I applied and got into vet school at Purdue, so I went to Purdue School of Veterinary Medicine, and then afterwards I went to work for a veterinarian that I did an externship. So the first year, or kind of internship year, was at a practice in Illinois. Mm-hmm. So it was north of Chicago. It was in a suburb. So that's where I worked the first year. I think it's I'll remember. So it's always kind of nerve-wracking, once you graduate. Mm-hmm. That first day is working as a veterinarian. So that's fearful. So at first everything is kind of scary. The next fearful thing I remember having to tackle was working in emergency. So the opportunity arose and presented itself, so I started working in emergency my second year out. Mm-hmm. So I did 1 year of daytime practice and then went into emergency medicine. So that was kind of hard, because I didn't have that much experience, and then I went into the emergency kind of realm, which is kind of scary, Through school and college, but then vet school too will train you, so they kind of train you. I think they make some situations stressful, so you learn how to deal with them, especially your last year, which is kind of like an internship year. So that helps you kind of deal with stress, but you're still stressed. The training and then, experience and time. On the road, one challenge was kind of the undergraduate degree, because we kind of moved back, to the States, my wife and I, and then so we had to, put ourselves through college. So we had to work and go to college. Mm-hmm. So that was not easy. And then the next big challenge is being accepted to these professional schools, which veterinary school in particular is difficult to get in. I just remember, when I did all the volunteer work and worked with animals in general, I enjoyed it so much, and that's what made me want to do it. So it's kind of, the neat thing is that you get to come and do this thing, and now you're kind of paid for it. Mm-hmm. When you volunteer, you don't get paid for it. So it's really not like a job in many senses. Daytime practice, usually they tend to be very routine. Occasionally you get hit by cars, you get dog fights. Those are kind of emergency. Occasionally, broken bones, where you have to stabilize, and then you have those repaired. I'd say some of the, kind of more shocking, or, if you have a dog that's been traumatized or hit by a car, the eyes kind of hanging out, things like that. So we've had them where the eyes popped out. You can put it back in sometimes. Sometimes you have broken bones that are sticking out, so that, you look at that, that's kind of, you're like, whoa. Yeah, sometimes you can see, lacerations, you can see, where skin's torn off, things like that. I think the hardest part is just seeing, kind of neglect cases, though. They come in too late, or they haven't been taken care of. Some of these guys are kind of abandoned too, so those are kind of the sad ones. Yeah, you see some of those. It's never ending. I mean, we've had, I worked at one practice where they drove by and just threw a kitten out of the car door, for example. Yeah, Didn't even stop. And I think it was kind of shocking, huh? Drove by the car, tossed the kitten out. The kitten did great. We found a home, happy ending. But it's kind of mind-boggling that somebody would just drive by and throw a pet out, at the veterinary hospital. But we find them sometimes. They'll leave them in boxes. They'll leave them. So you come to work and you find, abandoned pets at the front. You have to take care of them. You have to try to find homes for them and that kind of thing. With the job, and I think most of it has to do with two things. One is, there's no insurance, so sometimes you're kind of tied as far as how aggressive you can go diagnostically and work up and treatment. So sometimes that can be stressful because you see some animals that could receive treatment, and do okay, can't. And then, sometimes seeing, some of the neglect too can be kind of heart-wrenching. So I think veterinarians have a hard time with that. It'll drain you emotionally. I think that's the toughest part. Not so much the schedule, or you can be so busy where you get exhausted schedule-wise, but if you kind of draw the limits, These days, the veterinary medicine has changed from, years ago when veterinarians would do their own emergencies. That can be very fatiguing if you have to be on call, answer. But now we have emergency clinics, so when we close, they're always covered. I think the biggest thing these days is to kind of be aware of the kind of the financial sacrifice you have to make and the loans you have to take and what you're going to owe when you graduate compared to what you're going to make. So then, so that's a tough part, I think. That's kind of the challenge facing students these days. And it goes back even in undergrad too, though. I mean, you have to be careful. Sometimes the hardest part is getting in, so you want to go to anywhere you can, but you want to be careful as far as the finances and the cost, I think. So my advice would be go to the cheapest vet school you can.